Hey, it's Heidi Rain. Welcome back for another episode of Addiction and Relationships, all about recovery with Heidi Rain. And if you're new here, I just want to take a minute and say, welcome home. I am so glad you found me. This is a big place, the interwebs, YouTube, and the podcast. And so if you're finding me here, I'm going to trust that it's for a reason, that it's on purpose. I want you to leave this session today, this interaction with me today, feeling better about yourself and your situation than you did when you came to the video in the first place. So today, as you know, is all about rebuilding trust. Now, trust in and of itself is a very complicated thing, but when you throw addiction into the mix, trust is super complex. And because of its complexities, it can be really hard to figure out a way to rebuild the trust again. The addict or alcoholic or a person who betrayed you in your life is saying things to you on a daily basis like, good people forgive, or they're, throwing the moral code on you, right? Well, you've got to have a heart to forgive, and you should forgive me. And that ended a long time ago. And now I'm a new person. And especially if somebody's gone into treatment and they've gotten out, and now they're saying, well, listen, that all that happened before is what happened in the past. And when you talk about that, it triggers me back up. So you've got to learn to trust me from this day forward. And part of you desperately, of course, wants to be able to trust. But the truth is, you're stuck and you're scratching your head and wondering, what do I say to them when they continually ask me over and over again just to trust them, or when they're asking me to be intimate with them, and trust isn't there, and I don't even have the bandwidth to make myself be in a more intimate situation with this person because the trust is gone. I mean, if love were a house, wouldn't trust be the foundation of the house? And let's say that you're trying to remodel a house with your significant other, and they're up there hanging curtains and they're ripping up tiles and laying new floors, and they're ripping down the cabinets and making new pretty cabinets and painting them and doing all the things. And you could spend all your lifetime doing that, making it aesthetically beautiful. But if the foundation is cracked, eventually it all crumbles again, over and over and over again. So I'm going to explain how to rebuild trust today in a way that over my 20 plus years of working specifically in the area of addiction, recovery, codependence, relationships, I think that there's a system to trust. It's actually a three-step process in my mind. And when I walk clients through it, either separately or together, what I find is that that trust is restored. And from that place of restoration, everything else is possible. The communication gets better, the intimacy gets better, the relationship gets stronger, but we have to start with trust. And there's a system. So I've taken some notes today because I don't want to leave anything out. I definitely want to share this with you, and not forget a step because each and every one is critical along the way. So there's three components. Okay, so the first thing that you need to have in order to trust somebody to move forward after addiction or while they're in recovery is you've got to have a really firm understanding of what the hell happened. Now, addiction lives in the dark. It thrives off of secrecy and lies. And there's a lot of things that you probably do not know. And still, those are the things that keep you up at night wondering, well, was there an infidelity during this fight? Were they using other substances? How much of this is true and how much of this is a lie? How much, and you really can't move forward with somebody unless you have a very full picture, because that's what enables you to having all the details. That's what enables you to go into something eyes wide open instead of still feeling your way around in the dark. If there are secrets that are still being hidden from you, how can you possibly move forward when you don't even have the whole story? Now, there are many people that when they get into recovery, they believe in this amends process. They say, hey, make amends. And you're waiting for that step. You're like, hell yeah, let's get there. Let's make that step. But there's a caveat to that step. It says make amends and, talk about all these things unless you believe it'll bring harm to another person. Now, I think that a lot of people in recovery misuse and abuse this concept. And they think to themselves, well, if I tell them the whole truth and all the things that I've actually done in my addiction, then it will hurt them, and it's going to do more harm than good. And that's the idea that they hold in their head so that they can justify not telling you the whole truth. But I want to let you know, full transparency is a must. Even if you, as the alcoholic or addict, think that it's going to hurt the other person, you have to give them enough credit to be able to withstand and see the truth of everything that's gone down. That includes if there's been infidelities, what kind of substances. You could the addict or alcoholic convinces themselves, well, none of that stuff matters and it's all irrelevant. And just know that it was really bad. Now I'm better. But that's just not that doesn't help you make sense of all of this. That doesn't help you get back to the place of being able to trust when you don't even know what the hell fully happened. Transparency is extremely important. And you, as the person in recovery, owe your partner, the victim of your perpetrated crime, which is addiction, which acts the same as narcissistic abuse. You owe that person the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And then let them decide if they want to stick around through all that. Holding the truth, hiding the truth, only giving bits and pieces of the truth is manipulation, period. You might be convincing yourself you're just being a good person and you're just helping them because you're not going to hurt them more. But the truth is, you're continuing to manipulate somebody by not being totally honest about what happened. Okay. The next thing that needs to happen after you get the whole story and the whole truth, step number two is you both, you and your partner who've had these trust issues, need to understand the impact of what went down. You, as the partner of an addict or an alcoholic, have had significant trauma. Many times that trauma looks like complex post-traumatic stress disorder, meaning you want to trust and maybe you feel like, okay, you can rebuild that trust, but all of a sudden you find yourself getting triggered up and sent back into this land of like anxiety and confusion and this, your heart starts racing, and it could happen just from the phone call in the middle of the night that reminded you of the phone call in the middle of the night you used to get, or they're late for dinner and it reminds you of how they were late for dinner and the last time that they were late for dinner bad things happened, or you look at them and they look a little suspicious or under the influence. And this shrapnel is like you've been a victim as the partner of somebody else's internal war with themselves. An addict or an alcoholic is at war with themselves. And that war gets acted out on every single person in a vicinity, in a radius of that person. And how it affects you is this shrapnel. You have the fallout from all of this horrible situation that you've been in. So, when I work with couples, and I do this work a lot, and by the way, if you want more help and you want to have a program of restoration designed for you and your whole family, or just for you even, you can go over to HeidiRain.com and schedule a 90-minute intensive consultation, strategic consultation with me. And we'll listen to your situation, understand all the components of it. First of all, there's nothing like being validated and heard and understood. So having a Sherpa, a psychological Sherpa that knows the lay of the land, that can help you make your way across this mountains of obstacles ahead of you to learn how to trust, is extremely important. And I can be that person for you. So if you want me to do that for you, go to HeidiRain.com. And I do this all the time with couples. We sit down and we talk about how you have been impacted. And the partner's job is just to listen, to just absorb all the ways that their behavior has impacted and affected you, and actually validate the things you're saying, understand, so that when you're behaving a certain way, they understand that that's your recovery too. They're not the only ones in recovery. Oh, well, I'm better now. That'll never happen again. But it left a freaking mark. And so now you're being expected to just move on like nothing ever happened, because now they're sorry and they're getting better. And then you guilt yourself. Why can't I? It's because you have to sit with what happened. You have to be validated for the things you've been through and the way you've been impacted. And a person that loves you will be willing to hear that. It'll be hard as hell. That's why it's good to have the support person to coach you through the session and to instruct the session in a healthy way and hold the safe space for you guys to be able to do this. But you've got to be able to do this second step, which is understand the impact. So number one is they get clean, they come clean. They tell you everything so that nothing is hidden. There are no secrets and no lies anymore. Step number two is you get to talk with your partner about the impact of their behavior on you, how it's affected you, the marks that is left, the things you're working through in your own recovery. And then after you've done step one and step two, then you can rebuild the trust.